Welcome to our session today, Future Proofing Your Fire Prevention Strategy. First, I'd like to kick it off and ask Chad to introduce himself.
My name is Chad Thomison, I'm the Fire Protection Coordinator for Carleton University. Been here for about 3 years now.
Welcome, Chad. Thank you very much for taking the time today. My name is Rebecca Ormelate, and I'm the COO of Zendelity. And joining me today is Ira. Ira is our VP of Sales. Ira, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ira Lacroix, VP of Sales here at Zendelity. New to the team as of just a couple months ago, and really excited to sit down and listen through this conversation.
So what are we doing here today and what's our objective? So our goal is to help those in facilities management really understand their risks as it relates to fire prevention, to understand ways in which we can optimize our resources while at the same time ensuring compliance with the fire code. Let's jump right in. So Chad, let's start today's discussion by talking about, why you've dedicated your life to fire prevention and, why you're so passionate about this area and what you're doing.
I started as a firefighter, EMT, promoted into or went to paramedic school. There in the city I worked for, we're all firefighter paramedics. So we were able to ride the ambulance or the fire truck, fought a lot of fires. Throughout my 13 years in the fire service. Once I got in the fire department, I could see a fire, and I thought of preventing fires would be a good thing, right? So I started to go in that direction. Went to fire inspector school, took the classes for fire inspections and prevention, and from there it brought me to Canada. And the fire department here in Canada is a little bit different than it was in the States. It's very competitive. So I started off here in property management, doing fire safety for property management companies. And then Carleton University had an opening, so I jumped over here and haven't regretted it. I've been here for 3 years. I really like it. You go into an apartment building or any type of structure and you see where the fire started and to prevent it, most fires are preventable, right? I wouldn't say 100%, a lot of them are. That's why fire prevention is huge. Into it and seeing how the fire started and knowing, if that person or that building owner would have known this one thing, and we could have prevented this fire. Maybe it's storage in an electrical closet, or not having the extinguisher in the right area, the extinguisher missing, or however it might be, batteries taken out of smoke detectors, that kind of stuff, to know that the fire could have been prevented or could have saved a life. Fire prevention, kind of in the ballpark of fire inspections, we are preventing fires while we're doing that inspection. And here at the university, going through and being in charge of or looking over all the aspects of fire safety. There's a lot. We have a team, an emergency management office of 3 people. Myself, I do all the fire safety. Then we have an emergency manager, the assistant director, and then we have business continuity. So fire, it's just pretty much me and our contractors. Or here at the university, we have dorm rooms. To know that the smoke alarms in their dorm rooms, how important it is to make sure that we're changing those batteries once a year, making sure they're being tested monthly. That's pretty important. It could save a life, right? As a fire inspector, I used to go into businesses and ask for their records of inspections, and the look on their face was kind of, oh, what do you want? 2 years of inspection records on imagine a campus this size. It's a lot. That's a lot of paper. Here with the university was, we have 2,532 fire extinguishers. 33. We found one today. So, are they being inspected? How are they being inspected? I was just looking for a way to kind of put it all in one basket, kind of thing, to help me and to organize, inventory control, organize it. And that's when we came across Zendelity and the command center. I know what we have on campus anyway. And I know that, I'm relieved to know that we have them and we know where they're at, and the inventory control is, it was a shock to know that we had that many fire extinguishers and how were they being maintained. Fire extinguishers, for example, they have the paper tags on the most of them. You don't have to have the paper tag. People don't realize that. You don't have to have a paper tag on your fire extinguisher. NFPA 10, it's either a paper tag, a written record, a journal, or a electronic record keeping for those. So when you think of a fire extinguisher on the other side of campus, and it has to be touched or looked at every month, is it being done? Who's doing it? The only way you can really double check that is going and looking at every single tag on those fire extinguishers. To have a way for me to know and give me the confidence that that person did look at that fire extinguisher and checked on it. And that's one thing with this program. I can tell anybody, go look at this fire extinguisher. Here's what you're going to look at. Make sure it's in the green and make sure the tag. And then they walk off. But what if they get to that fire extinguisher and they don't remember it? If the tag's broken, then it needs to be serviced. Or if it's not on the other side of the green, then it needs to be serviced. If it's not hanging up. So that was another thing too, is I wasn't being notified. Somebody'd call me up and say, hey, we got 4 empty fire extinguishers over here. And I go over there and they're the ones like, where'd they come from? Nobody knew where they had come from, but they knew that they were replaced with another one. So we had a bunch of spares, but there was just no control. There was no, it was honestly, it was baffling to know how to do it. Property management, same thing. I looked over, I think I had 60 apartment buildings. It's a lot of fire extinguishers. And each one, by the time I left a book, inspection book in each building in a specific place to where it had all the fire extinguishers listed. So that was what I could do there. If I knew about this way of tracking it, I would have known you for many more years. But the record keeping, I'd have to go to their office, open up the files and dig through months and months of the fire extinguishers. And then you have a paper form. I could take a form right now and I could go sign for 2020 that I did all these fire extinguishers and nobody would know. I would know. That was my thing, is I would know. You could tell if somebody's up to par on their fire prevention, their fire safety or program, you can tell when you walk in. As a fire inspector, I could walk in, and if I saw storage in different areas that wasn't supposed to be there, or a missing fire extinguisher, an extinguisher that had the tag, then I'm going to start digging in deeper. And I'm going to ask for their records, and they're going to go find their records. And I'm going to look at their records, and you could tell. I mean, if it's all written in the same pen, and it looks like from line to line to line, then I know that they didn't do their monthly checks on their fire extinguishers. Now I'm going to go check them all. I'm gonna walk around, I'm gonna look at all their fire extinguishers. I'm gonna make sure that they're in good working order. And then, we go from there and find all kinds of different deficiencies. My point with the fire inspectors, I want to have a good relationship with them. I want them to know that I have a passion for fire safety, and that I'm doing my part, my due diligence for the university. And that tag is good for them to walk through and be able to look at all of them, but it's even better when you pull it up on a phone and say, here they are, here's all my reports, and it's readily available. I want them to understand that I'm serious for fire safety, and being able to come through it and look through the eyes as a firefighter, as a fire inspector, and then as a fire prevention, I can see it from all aspects. I see us taking time and looking at how we can advance it and improve our fire safety and maintaining records and stuff, then that's a bonus, right? That's a bonus for us. They know we're serious about our fire safety stuff here, and they're not here a lot. I like that. The more I can keep the fire trucks off this campus, then my job's being done properly. That's what I wanted, was something that gave me 100% assurance that it was being done. And if it wasn't being done, then we can follow up, right? And I wanted something that, the other thing too is I wanted to know if it was empty, if there was an empty fire extinguisher, it scares me. And I walk into Walmart, I'm looking at their fire extinguishers, because if they're empty, I'm gonna tell them. Because without that thing being full, you're not putting out the smallest fire. When they start, they're small. You can use an extinguisher. What I was wanting was a innovative way, because with all the technology we have, with all the people with smartphones, there's got to be some way that we're not carrying around a clipboard, we're not doing a paper report on all these fire extinguishers. There's got to be a way. So what I was looking for was a system that was first user friendly. So I was looking for something simple that I could use, that we could use on all, not just fire extinguishers. We can use it on emergency light boxes. We can use it on all the stuff that we have to check every month. I can use it for those and have a record. First, the status quo didn't work for me. I didn't want to stay where I was, because honestly, I didn't feel comfortable that everything was being done 100%. So I that was not an option for me. The service provider, I did reach out to a company, and when you look at a service provider to provide that kind of stuff, fire extinguishers were my starting point, right? That's what I wanted to start with. But once you get a service provider to do that, that's it. You're going to pay that money, and that's all you're going to get is the fire extinguishers. So, and the cost of it. I mean, I was shocked. And then more people, bringing out more people to do it. It was just, it's a cost, right? Bringing on people and your benefits, and I'd love to bring on more people, to help me, and just not going to happen. The digital part of it was it. Let's save trees. Let's quit writing on these papers and trying to find the paper. Where did it go? Who wrote it? When did they write it? Just digitally, you don't have that. It's a timestamp. It's a person, their name. It's all there. So there's no question here. I wanted something that you would have to physically touch. You see other programs that use the barcodes, and I think that's an option with yours was the barcode. What I've seen in the past, and I've seen it firsthand, you could photocopy those barcodes, and then you could put them on one paper, and then you could sit in your office and do them from your office. So I wanted something that not that I don't mistrust people. That's how I want to make sure this thing's done correctly. I don't want an opportunity for somebody to be able to trick the system.
Chad, you can clarify, but so what we've done is we've created a work plan for every building, so on Carleton's campus. And a work plan has a work item for every single fire extinguisher on the property. And for each fire extinguisher, Chad has identified 4 key questions that he needs to know about that fire extinguisher to feel confident that the actual inspection has been done and it's been completed, on time as a requirement. So in this case, Chad identified, is the hose attached? Is the pressure in the green? Is it properly mounted? And is the pin in? So now what happens is his resource who's going around and doing these inspections simply follows along the work plan, captures the data for each fire extinguisher. That data is then captured in a central repository in our system, in our database. And so that now when the fire inspector arrives on site, as an example, he can simply pull up a report that shows, per building exactly when the fire extinguishers were inspected and by whom. So it eliminates that requirement to go in and inspect them and check them. And he's got that real-time dashboard, so he can see whether or not that is, is it actually taking place as per the requirements. And I think the beautiful thing that alluding to regarding the AEDs is Chad was able to create a work plan for his AEDs. What did it take you, Chad? Like to do your AEDs to create a new one?
Not long at all. I actually called you to make sure I could do it, and then you gave me the confidence. So I went in there, and when it took 10 minutes to create the actual plan, and then it took longer to assign each tag for each AED, but I wanted to make sure that I was getting the right information too. So what I did on that one, the AEDs, for example, I looked up in the book on the handbook on these AEDs that we bought them from, and it tells you check this monthly. So I was able to transfer that check marks into this program. So each month when they scan that tag, it actually verbatim of what the Zoll's book told me to ask for each month. So I could word it how I want to word it. What's really cool too, and you left out was, let's say that there's an extinguisher that's empty, and they scan it and they put empty on their check marks. I'm notified right away. There's certain questions on there that I will get notification immediately. And an empty fire extinguisher will be a good one. Or the AEDs, if the checkbox is not, illuminated, that AED is no good. So those questions right there, and I set it up with AEDs to where it'll notify me if they're doing their inspections and they answer that question no or yes, however I have it set up, it'll notify me right away. This AED, I'll get notification before the person doing it can call me, and it tells me that it needs to be something's wrong or it needs to be corrected. Another really cool thing that we've done is the fire hose cabinets, the wrenches in the fire hose cabinets. Somebody at one point thought they weren't very important to have. Fire code thinks differently, and Ottawa Fire thinks very differently. You have to have those hose wrench cabinets or the wrenches in there, the spanner wrenches. So that was another checkbox that we put on the fire hose cabinets. Does it have a fire hose wrench, a spanner wrench? So that would, when I'm a whole other thing, I was removing or getting permission to remove fire hoses. So that was one of the questions was, do they all have spanner wrenches? And I was like, man, I'm gonna have to walk. We have 900 of those things, and I was able to pull a report on which ones didn't have spanner wrenches, because that's part of our questions each month. So it saved me walking the entire campus, or it saved me from getting somebody to walk the entire campus to do it. And we're talking, they could have taken 2 or 3 days to get those done, and I was able to do it in a few minutes. So that, that time that I was saved, I mean, imagine the dollar amount of my time walking and trying to figure this out. So it's really, I like it. I really do. I can't speak enough about it. I talked to the cleaning company, I've talked to the maintenance people, and explained to them what we have here. It's a very unique system, man. And if there's anything that you're checking monthly and you're still paper writing, and you could put one of these tags on it. I don't know. I find it it's easy, and it gives me the confidence that it was done. My number one thing was the reassurance that it's being done properly. I just gave you an example of me I would have to walk the entire campus to count these spanner wrenches to make sure we had them all. So you figure a dollar rate on that's where you're saving. The cost of me doing that was pretty big. And relationships, my relationship with Ottawa Fire, like I said, is really good. And coming from a fire, being a city fire inspector, I was them. I know what they're looking for, and what they're looking for is somebody that takes this fire safety as a priority. So my relationship with them, having this, they thought it was really cool. They hadn't seen it before, but I'd like to say I had a good relationship before with them. It did improve my relationship with the contractor that does our monthly extinguishers, because I've got to know them throughout this process of getting the system and put in. I'm going to buy her a Christmas gift this year. I mean, that's how I improved my relationship with her. And I know that she knows how it's very important what she does. That's an important job. And if you have somebody that's just going out there and you're telling them, go check all these fire extinguishers, tell them why, to tell them why they're doing it, make them feel that it's an important job. It's very important. Budgeting. So this year was our first year we had our contractor that does our annual inspections on our extinguishers use this system. I never heard them complain about it. We got them set up, their phone set up on it. But in their questioning was what was the last test done and when was it done? So, hydrostatic testing or the 6-year maintenance, for example. I know in 6 years I wanted to do more maintenance on that fire extinguisher. Now, by having the contractor, I don't have to do any extra work. The contractor is doing it, is putting that date in there when that thing was last 6-year tested or hydrostatic testing, I can forecast. That one's going to need to be done again in 6 more years. So I can forecast now, or the dates. They're going to put the date on there of what the last test was and what the date it was done. So now I can forecast for next year. How many am I going to have to do for 6-year testing? So it does help out on that. If I had more people working with me, man, I could probably really drill this thing down to knowing exactly how many extinguishers I need for the 6-year testing for next year and budget accordingly. Fast and easy. If I had a new person start doing fire extinguishers today, it would be a disaster before this program, because it was all in the memory of that person that had been doing it for 8 years, knowing where the fire extinguishers are, knowing, I mean, we have so many lab spaces that require them. So knowing that that's a lab space that requires one. So now with this, I can give somebody a phone. I could give a student employee a phone and tell them, go to this building. And everyone they do, it tells you exactly where they're at. We put it in there to where it's in this building, in this room, on this wall. I mean, we can detail this thing down to say it's a 4th ceiling tile over from the right. So they know we can get anybody to go do them. The answers or the questions that we ask them are right there in front of them on that work plan. And that work plan will not close until they're done, which is genius. So until they touch that last fob with that phone, the work plan is going to stay open, or they can skip it. Now, if they skip it, they have to put a reason why they skipped it. Couldn't find it, missing. Sometimes if there's one empty, I'm getting serviced, I'll put a loaner in its place. So they'll skip it. So that's just all out. The way it's helped me is most of my biggest thing was the confidence that it's being done properly. That's my biggest thing, and to know that person didn't sign for 3 months. It's 1 month at a time. I mean, it doesn't have to be just for fire safety, right? It could be for safety in general, where I'm always looking for any kind of hazards, trip hazards, joint health and safety committee kind of stuff. If we put a sticker on one of these buildings and each time they salted the stairwell, they touch it with their phone and put salted or scraped or remove shovels or remove snow. That'd be pretty important if somebody fell on your property to have that proof right there. It's timestamped of when they do it. And I just thought of that today. I mean, there's so many different things you could do with this. So my department is in the Office of Risk Management, which also holds the environmental health and safety team. I wash stations. I doing the inspections, or when I was locating all these extinguishers, I came across some shady eye wash stations is what I call them, that probably had maybe it was in a mechanical space that doesn't get seen often. I said, hey, I gotta wait for you to know that these are being inspected. I said, first thing is to know where they're at, because they have portable eye wash stations now too, right? So they think can be moved around. So to know where they're at, inventory control, fire safety is what I want to use it for mostly, but I'm always looking at other things that we can use it for. The fire emergency lights, those have to be checked monthly to be able to put one of these tags on there. The fire pumps supposed to be visually looked at weekly. Simple looking at it, and then signing a paper, having something they can just tap it with their phone and here's what I'm looking at. So the AEDs, I put them on the AEDs. That's another thing, that anything that you have to routinely check, it's good for. Or if you're looking for that solid data, like I just scraping the stairs of salting the stairs, to protect you from a lawsuit, or to help you in the event of a lawsuit as a property manager, coming from that world, there's some tenants out there, man, if they trip, they're gonna take you with you, they're gonna go to court with you. So I think what we ended up doing there was, which we would do it on the phone. We would actually text somebody, hey, I'm the maintenance crew's salting. That's our
Okay,
crew.
so that's how you collected the data, and then you would have to in the past go and then sort through your text to find the text sent.
So one person would receive all the texts and they would be in charge of writing it all down. So I don't know what kind of proof that is, because I can text you from the grocery store and tell you, hey, I just salted that property. But so, having something physically there to do it, it's endless the way you can put this, because you can put any questions you want on it. I can put this tag on my door and say, is Chad's door closed? And then they'd have to, his door's closed. It's endless of what you can use this thing for. It's just creative on how you want to use it. I'm fire safety, so I'm going to use it on every piece of fire safety equipment I have. Fire safety is not going to make you money. There's no money to be made at fire safety. There's a ton of money to save with fire safety, though. A fire extinguisher being empty, and having a fire, and somebody can't put the fire out because the fire extinguisher is empty or nobody's checked it in the last month and a half. How much does that save you? That's where you're saving. You're saving in the confidence of knowing this stuff's being done properly, and it's gonna save us money in the event of a fire. It's gonna save us a life. You can't put a price on a life. If you want to put them on smoke detectors and property management, and twice a year when you're changing the battery on a thing, and there's your time step, and it was done. So that's my take on it. And I've always thought that fire safety's, we're not selling anything. We're not selling a gym memberships or food. We'll give free food away, but we're not going to draw in revenue. We're going to save you revenue. My number one thing is think to yourself, where are my extinguishers? Where's my fire safety stuff? Where's my records? And then look at the records. If you've never looked at them, you have somebody else doing them, look at the record. Is it all written in the same pen, months at a time? And if you're not looking for that kind of stuff, or go look for your last 2 years of inspection records. Go pull them up out of a file cabinet somewhere. The amount of paperwork that you'd have to go through to find this stuff, and to think about it, by the time you're done looking for all your months of inspection reports, I could have hit a thing on my phone and pulled it up, or on my desktop and pulled up my last 3 years. It's right there at your hands to do it, and to know that it is time stamped. It was done. It gives you a date. It gives you a time. There's no. You can't compete against it. You can't say no, he didn't do it. Because I physically had to go to that fire extinguisher, touch it with my phone, and put the stuff in the information. So that's why I get you to go back, look around, look at your fire safety stuff. Look at all your fire extinguishers. Talk to the person that does your fire extinguishers. Are they able to do them? Are they having problems doing it? What would make their job easier? And then look into this program or some form of electronic data keeping to be able to give you, especially if you're anything like me, when you started in that line of work in property management, thinking, man, if I ever hear a fire in that building, I hope the fire department doesn't find an empty fire extinguisher. I hope all the smoke detector batteries were changed in that apartment. Thinking that, and it's scary to think that the risk of not doing it and not having the records of doing it is even worse, right? If you don't have the record of doing it, you didn't do it. That's how the fire department sees it. If you don't have record of doing the inspections, you didn't do the inspections. So, if you can use a program and pull it up, save you a lot of time, a lot of hassle, and possibly a lot of a lawsuit. That you don't want to end up there with trying to dig through file cabinets to find your inspection reports. If you want to stay status quo and you're okay with it, that's all you, right? I'm not going to tell you that it's going to make this is going to relieve all your pains and of doing this line of work, but I can guarantee you one thing, that when I drive home at night from this campus, I know that everything that I signed on to do is being done. I know that those extinguishers that were done, and I know of any empty fire extinguisher on campus that was found that day is corrected. I don't want to I don't want it that to be on the back of my head of man, I wish I would have, I wish we'd have done this, or I wish we'd have done that, especially when it comes to fire safety and life hazards, and just you don't want that on you. And the cost of it, I mean, everybody has budgets, and especially right now, it's restricted, they're tight. But I guarantee if I go to my director right now and I say, look, man, I want to extend this program to include this, he's not going to bat an eye on it, because he knows how much time it's saving me. He knows that we're saving a lot of time, which is money. I mean, time is money for sure. It's saving me so much time to not have it. And then they don't have to hire anybody, right? It's better to stay with this program instead of hiring somebody, which, I love the program. I like friends to talk to at work too. So if I could hire some people, but this is the cheapest way by far. People cost a lot of money. The assurance is this cost you is not gonna, the assurance outweighs the cost in my eyes.
Really thank you for your time and for sharing your experience. We're going to open up for questions, but just a few kind of quick housekeeping. So one, we've created, based on the lessons that we've learned through working with Chad, a risk self-assessment guide for fire prevention. So in essence, it really takes you through those categories that Chad just spoke about, and will help you really understand your current situation, your current risk levels, your current exposure levels, so you can make an educated decision as, is this an area that we need to move forward with? We are offering anybody a free consultation we'll work with you to help you understand, how it could work and whether there is a fit for you. Obviously, it's really important to us that we partner with our customers and we're adding value. So we want to work with you to understand that. In the January timeframe, we are looking at doing another similar type discussion, but next time we'll be talking more on digging more into the time management side of things. So you can watch for those kind of invites and information coming at a later date. But for now, I'd like to turn the tables to Ira, who will be posing some of the questions that he's received.
A couple questions to both Chad and Rebecca. So one was around the time management. So in some of the conversations that had happened before, you were talking about the length of time that it actually takes to validate reports, and really using Command Center. The question comes down to, using this tool, you've saved the time. So what are you putting your time towards now? Like, what more can you do with the time savings?
What more can I do? I can stay afloat. There's I'm able to concentrate on other things, like putting it on the AEDs and the Narcan. I'm not so tied up to where I'm digging to get out. It saved me some time to where now I can concentrate on the emergency response team or something else I was lacking. I mean, I'm never going to have a ton of free time, but any bit I can get, I'll use it wisely.
Okay.
Perfect. So another question that I've actually received a bunch of times and have received before this one as well, and this is actually for Rebecca, which is, what's the difference really between Command Center and your a computerized maintenance management system? What's the difference between Command Center and a CMMS?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of people have computerized maintenance management systems in place today within their facilities organizations. I would say the differences come in a few form factors. So one, many of those systems are focused on your much larger items, your boilers, and the like. I think one of the beautiful things about what we are doing is the ability to focus on both, big and small assets. So you can use this tool to build work plans around your boilers and around your HVAC systems or whatever else you need. But we can also build them around the smaller, more inventory type items like your fire extinguishers, your exit lights, your whatever the case may be, your play structures even. right? So you think of all of that stuff that we spend money on within the infrastructure, within your buildings, within your property, we can build plans around that versus just the, the larger kind of infrastructure items. The other big difference that I would suggest with what we're doing is around, we can build work plans around both an inventory item, in this case, the fire extinguishers, but we can also build them around locations. So we're working with another client who's using it to ensure the sanitization of their property. So they send in an inspector who's inspecting the work of their staff. In this case, they're using it to inspect the work of the staff, but it could be to tell the staff what to do, but it can be based on a location. So you've got a tremendous amount of flexibility with where you can go with this solution, whether you care about an asset or an inventory item, or whether you care about a location. Either way, if you need staff to physically put their hands, their eyes, their ears on something on your property, we can build you a work plan around that and give you the confidence that the tasks at hand have actually been completed.
That's awesome. Thank you. So Jeff actually just sent in a great one. Is there an integrated compliance check for life protection equipment? So for example, extinguishers, emergency lighting, fire alarms, or suppression systems.
So there's currently, we don't have a template. The beautiful thing about this is you can create it yourself. So the way the product works is you define your building. So I have, X building, it's got this many floors, it's got whatever it is. And then I can define my inventory items. So those can be anything you want and you create them. So you say, I'm creating a new item. It's my fire extinguisher in this case. These are the properties, the serial number, the weight that we care about. And then I can go ahead and build my work plan. So it's completely 100% adaptable to you and what matters for you and your property and your business. Because every property is slightly different. It's going to have its own requirements versus having a canned template here, do exactly this. It's, taking it that next step and understanding and building it specifically to you.
You know what, I'll go off on that too, Rebecca, and see with the AEDs and the Narcan that I just set up with this. So my extinguishers are set up, the work plans are set up by building. So one building, and it lists your fire extinguishers, and I can have them, I can select them if I want them to do it in a specific order. I can select the order I want them done in, or I just let them do it how they want to do it. Like I said earlier, it won't let you close it until you finish that last extinguisher. But with the AEDs and the Narcan, since there's only, I want to say 40 total, I was able to put them in one work plan and not by building. By what it was, what the control was AEDs Narcan. So they can click on that AED Narcan work plan, and it'll pull up multiple buildings that have the stuff I want checked in those buildings. So they don't have to, there's not 10 work plans because there's 10 buildings. It's one work plan with all of them in it and multiple buildings.
And that's just it, right? So you can build. So, if we could have built a work plan for Chad that was all one work plan for all fire extinguishers across all of his buildings, but that would have been very difficult for the individual to manage. So in that case, we chose to create a work plan per building. Whereas in the case of the AEDs, because they're smaller than them and it's, you're going to do it. I think whatever you're going to do it, you're going to do them all at once. So again, it's defined by you as a user, what makes sense for you.
That's great. So another interesting one, just talking about backup inventory management for you, Chad. So we've talked about time savings, but for money savings, using those backup issues, right? As you noticed, if you've got one fire extinguisher that's run empty, you have another one from storage, but being able to better manage your entire inventory. Have you noticed a savings when it comes to ordering and replacing?
Oh yeah, because if you think of it, if you have a contractor come pick up one fire extinguisher and they take it for service, they're going to charge you a truck fee, and and then they come back and say, oh, I got another empty one. So I'm able now with being able to register these as spares, and I have a inventory control on spares. I can save up. I have, I think, 2 right now that I'm waiting. I might get 5, and then maybe that's my magic number is 5. I'll call the contractor. They'll come pick up the 5, go service them. And then they can scan them and tell them where they go back, right? It's not like they're going to put these 5 in different areas, because beforehand, that's what we were doing. There was no control of which extinguisher was where. So now they can scan it after they fill it out, and it'll tell them, this goes in this building, this location, exact location. So it's able to help me on my inventory, and more than anything else, it helps me control where the inventory is.
That's awesome. So last question, one for Chad. So going back to the people aspect, and talking about contractors coming in, you said that it was pretty easy to get, especially the woman who was doing the fire extinguisher checks, to get them up and running quickly. Can you expand a little bit on what it was like to get the contractors and staff sort of up and running on Command Center?
That's actually a really good question. So the company that we use for fire extinguishers for our annuals, and this isn't the monthly one. The monthly one was the relationship was already kind of formed when she grew with us as we did this. Now, when I went to the contractor and I said, "Hey, are you okay by doing this?" And they said, "Yeah, we'll help you out. We'll do it." So we put the program on there, and it's a younger inspector that they have. Very tech savvy apparently, because it was like never hit a miss. I mean, we gave it the program, she knocked him out of the park. I mean, she would say, "Hey, look, I'm missing, there's an extinguisher missing on the inventory control," which that's what is cool about this, because if there's an extinguisher on our campus without one of these tags on it, I know that it got added or it got missed. Today I found one. It's been there forever. It hasn't been looked at since 2016. Now I know it's going to be there because I put one of these on there today. So the contractors, for them to be able to pick it up and use it, and then now they have that data that they collected for me, and we detail it. I mean, you're talking about an annual inspection on a fire extinguisher. You're looking at the manufacturing date, the hydrostatic testing date, the 6-year date. That's a lot of data that they have to sit there and she was able to just, it's a click of a finger that here's the date, text it in, and the reports are detailed out. I don't have to wait for their reports. It's just, I will be going that way with most of all of my annual inspection reports. I won't hang one from every fire sprinkler head, but I'll put one on a fire pump, when they do their testing on the fire pump. And I'll get with the contractor and I'll ask them, what questions do you need to know every annual inspection? And I will write up the program myself because it's so easy to do it. And I'll give them and make sure it works, make sure, it looks like it's what they want. And then we'll shoot with those next. And that's on the next year's inspections. But they're not putting it down by no means. And at the end of the day, I'm their customer. I'm paying them money. And if they don't want to venture off into what I want to do, maybe the next contractor will. Or ask them what, is it difficult? I was so impressed this year with the fire extinguishers that there was no hiccups, not one. And that's neat for somebody to come in and never see this product and be able to take it down like they did.
The end of the questions that we have sent in. If anyone has any last minute questions, feel free. And otherwise, I'll turn it back to Rebecca.
I really want to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to join us today. Again, I will be sending out the recording as well as this risk self-assessment guide. So I would encourage you to take a look at it and hopefully you find some value in it and can really help understand your current situation. And again, identify those opportunities for improvement. We are offering that free consultation. So, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here for you. And, our goal in life is to really help you create a safe and secure environment, something that you're confident about. And I'm positive that we can do that. So hopefully we get an opportunity to chat. I want to once again say thank you to Chad. On both a personal and professional level, I've learned so much from the opportunity working with Carleton University and specifically Chad. It has been a great experience. So, thank you for taking the time and thank you for sharing your story with everyone today.